Before GPS, before touchscreens, before air-conditioned cabs with Bluetooth, farmers stood on open iron decks, breathing dust and diesel, coaxing machines that weighed tons across endless fields, and they fed the world anyway. Some of those machines didn't just do a job, they rewrote history, survived wars, sparked revolutions, and earned names whispered with reverence in farm shops for decades. These are the 10 vintage combines that didn't just harvest grain, they became legends. Number 10. John Deere Model 95. We start our countdown with a machine that needs no introduction in farming communities across the American Midwest and Pacific Northwest. The John Deere Model 90. When it rolled off the line in 1957, it immediately claimed the title of the largest self-propelled combine in the world. Over the course of its production run, which stretched all the way through 1969, more than 39,000 Model 95 combines were manufactured. Those are not just production numbers, those are 39,000 machines that spread across a continent and fed a generation. The 95 was built on the same architectural foundation as the legendary Model 55, with the operator elevated high at the center of the machine and the engine tucked behind. But everything about it was bigger, more powerful, and more capable. It could be equipped with headers ranging up to 20 feet wide. It was available in both gasoline and diesel configurations, and later squareback versions even offered a full enclosed cab with air filtration, a luxury that gave Deere a real edge in the dusty wheat fields of the Great Plains. One of the most celebrated versions of the 95 was the 95H, the hillside model. With a self-leveling mechanism that kept the separator body level while the machine worked on steep slopes, the 95H became the undisputed king of the Palouse wheat country in eastern Washington and northern Idaho, where fields roll at angles that would send a flatland combine sliding sideways into the canyon. Old-timers in that part of the country still talk about the 95H with the kind of reverence usually reserved for racehorses. Combine forum users have shared stories of their grandfather's 1959 and 1969 models still being put to work well into the 2000s, running flawlessly, as one farmer put it, after 40-plus years. That kind of durability is not an accident. It is the result of John Deere building a machine so fundamentally sound that time simply could not defeat it. Number 9. Massey Ferguson 410 and 510 series. If the John Deere 95 was the dominant force in North American harvesting in the late 1950s and early 1960s, Massey Ferguson was quietly preparing an answer that would become something even more remarkable, the best-selling combine line in the entire world. When the MF410 were released in 1963, built in a brand new factory in Brantford, Ontario, the global combine market changed overnight. By the mid-1960s, following the introduction of the new 300, 400, and 500 series models, Massey Ferguson claimed 18% of the worldwide market for combines, not North American market. The 410 and 510 were improvements on earlier Massey Ferguson designs from their Kilmarnock, Scotland factory, incorporating wider straw walkers and a redesigned 3-screen cascade cleaning shoe that set a new standard for sample quality, the cleanliness and condition of the threshed grain. These machines were built simultaneously in 3 factories: Brantford, Ontario, Marquette, France, and Kilmarnock, Scotland. That kind of multinational production at scale was unprecedented in the combine industry in 1963, and it allowed Massey Ferguson to supply dealers and farmers across North America, Europe, and beyond simultaneously. The engineering behind these machines deserves recognition in its own right. Tom Carroll, the same brilliant engineer whose Model 21 had powered the 1944 Harvest Brigade, had spent his final years at Massey as an expatriate in Scotland, helping design the foundational technology that the 400 and 500 series were built upon. The saddle-mounted fuel tanks, the hydraulic turret-style unloading auger, the variable speed cylinder drive, the tailings retreater. These were genuinely advanced features for their era, and they gave the MF410 and 510 a sophistication that smaller competitors simply could not match. In farming communities from Manitoba to Middlesex, these red and gray machines became a fixture of harvest season for 2 decades. Footage of them at work is everywhere. European farm archives, Canadian agricultural films, American county fair demonstrations. They are machines that the world actually saw running, in real fields, in real numbers, because they were absolutely everywhere. Number 8. International Harvester Model 123, 125, International Harvester had been in the combine business since 1915 when it introduced its first tractor-pulled combines equipped with an onboard engine to power the threshing mechanism. By the early 1960s, IH was producing a full range of machines, from modest entry-level combines to large commercial units. The Model 123 and Model 125 represent that early 1960s generation, compact, no-frills machines that gave smaller farms their first taste of self-propelled harvesting. What made these IH combines stand out was their reliability and the dealer network backing them. International Harvester, by this era, had one of the most extensive agricultural dealer networks in North America. A farmer buying an IH combine knew that when something broke, and something always broke during harvest, there was a dealer within reach who had the parts and the expertise. The 12-foot swath cut by the 123-105 was modest, but for a small grain farm in the Midwest or Canada, it was exactly what was needed to make grain harvest a one-man operation. Former operators still speak fondly of the unique simplicity of operating these machines. They didn't have a lot to go wrong, and when they ran well, they ran beautifully. The IH-123 and 125 put self-propelled combine ownership within reach of the average American farmer, and that matters enormously in the story of how this country fed the world in the mid-20th century. Number 7. All-Crop Harvester. Before we get to the giants of the self-propelled era, we have to pause and honor a machine that fundamentally changed who could afford to harvest. The Allis-Chalmers All-Crop Harvester, introduced in This was not a massive self-propelled beast. It was a pull-type combine, designed to be towed behind a small farm tractor, and that was precisely its genius. Before the all-crop, small-scale farming families faced a brutal reality. Full-size threshing operations required large crews and massive equipment that smaller farms simply couldn't justify. Allis-Chalmers changed that equation with a machine that was affordable, versatile, and manageable for a single operator with a modest tractor. The all-crop could harvest not just wheat, but soybeans, oats, barley, clover, and a range of other crops, hence the name. Its rubber-mounted reel was specifically designed to handle the delicate feeding of different crop types without the losses that plagued earlier machines. The all-crop was a commercial phenomenon. It sold in massive numbers throughout the late 1930s and into the 1950s, and it established Allis-Chalmers as a serious player in the harvesting market. Collectors still find these machines and restore them today. Their orange paint, a color that would become iconic in American agriculture, making them unmistakable at any vintage farm show. Number 6. Massey-Harris Model 21. Now we are in legendary territory. The Massey-Harris Model 21 is one of the most historically significant agricultural machines ever built. Full stop. Here is its story, and it is one that deserves to be told in full. In the late 1930s, Tom Carroll, an Australian-born engineer working for Massey-Harris in Canada, was developing what would become the world's first commercially successful self-propelled combine harvester. His earlier Model 20 proved the concept was viable, but was too heavy and expensive for widespread adoption. So Carroll and his team went back to the drawing board and created something lighter, cheaper, and better, the Model 21. It featured a 12-foot cut, was built lower to the ground with the engine positioned underneath the body, and used draper canvases to feed grain into the feeder house. When it went on sale in 1941, it was priced within range of the average farmer, something the Model 20 had never achieved. But what truly made the Massey-Harris 21 a legend was not its engineering, it was its role in World War II. When the United States entered the war, steel was rationed, labor was scarce, and the demand for food production had never been higher. Joe Tucker, sales manager for Massey-Harris USA, saw an extraordinary opportunity. He went to the War Production Board with a bold proposal: give Massey-Harris permission to build 500 extra Model 21 combines beyond their production quota, and the company would sell those machines only to farmers who agreed to harvest at least 2,000 acres each. The math he presented was compelling. Those 500 combines would harvest at least 15 million bushels of grain from more than 1 million acres. They would save 500,000 gallons of fuel. They would release up to 1,000 tractors for other wartime uses. The War Production Board approved the plan, and in 1944 the Harvest Brigade was born. 500 farmers, most of them loading their combines onto trucks and following the harvest north from Texas through the Great Plains, proved that one machine, one operator, could transform American grain production. The Harvest Brigade also created an entire new industry, custom harvesting, where operators travel from farm to farm offering their services, exploded after the war. The model that Tom Carroll built and that Joe Tucker marketed with wartime genius spawned a way of farming that survives to this day. When Canada Post issued a commemorative stamp honoring the Massey-Harris No. 21 in June 1996, they were recognizing a machine that had genuinely changed the course of agricultural history. Number 5. John Deere, Model 55. When the Massey-Harris Harvest Brigade ended World War II with a bang, every major equipment manufacturer in the country knew the future was self-propelled combines. John Deere scrambled to catch up. They had been making pull-type combines since the 1920s, but a self-propelled machine was a different engineering challenge entirely. In 1947, they delivered their answer, the Model 55. The John Deere 55 made a spectacular entrance. It was the first combine to place the operating station at the top and center of the machine, with the grain tank and engine positioned behind the operator. This configuration gave the 55 exceptional balance for its size. It also meant the driver sat high enough to see the entire cutting platform clearly, which significantly improved harvesting accuracy and reduced grain losses at the head. The machine was notably quieter than competitors of the era, a feature John Deere specifically promoted. The Model 55 became a long-running platform. It was produced from 1947 all the way through 1969, with continuous refinements along the way. The early versions, colloquially called the Highboy by collectors because of their tall, upright grain bins, were produced from 1947 to 1959. Later, the high-low configuration arrived in 1960, featuring a dramatically lower profile with flared-out bin sides that made transport far easier. This was a direct response to the streamlined styling Massey-Harris had introduced with its 82 and 92 series, and John Deere executed it brilliantly. Beyond its own production run, the Model 55 established the architectural template that John Deere combine engineering would follow for generations. The 6600, the 7720, the STS series, they all trace their lineage in a direct line back to the engineering decisions made when the 55 was built. It is the ancestor that the entire John Deere combine family acknowledges. Number 4. Gleaner L Combine. The Gleaner name had been in harvesting since 1923, but by the 1960s, Gleaner, now part of Allis-Chalmers, was making machines that truly rivaled the Deere and IH giants of the era. The Gleaner L is the model that cemented that reputation, and it did so by being genuinely different from its competitors in a way that matters deeply to operators who understand grain harvesting at a mechanical level. In most combines of the era, the threshing cylinder was positioned high and toward the rear of the machine, and grain fell down a clean grain pan before reaching the cleaning shoe. Gleaner built their machines differently. The cylinder and concave were placed inside the feeder house itself, lower and further forward, and material moved by a rattle chain underneath the concave directly to the walkers. Clean grain fell between the rattle and the walkers onto the shoe, while straw floated across to the walkers to be expelled. This lower center of gravity gave Gleaner combines a natural advantage in hillside harvesting. Gleaner, IH, and John Deere all produced hillside leveling combines, but the fundamental Gleaner design was inherently better balanced on slopes than competitors. Rice farmers particularly valued this. Gleaner self-propelled combines could even be fitted with special tracks instead of tires for harvesting flooded rice paddies. The Gleaner L built a loyal fan base that persists in farming communities to this day. Number 3. Sperry New Holland TR70. In 1975, Sperry New Holland dropped a machine on the agricultural world that nobody saw coming, and it shook the entire combine industry to its core. The TR70 was the first commercially produced rotary combine in North America, and it announced its arrival with one of the most audacious slogans in farm equipment history, stenciled right on the side of the machine: "Look, no straw walkers." For context, every combine before this point used straw walkers, long reciprocating frames that separated grain from straw through a shaking motion. Straw walkers worked, but they were large, mechanically complex, and limited how compact and powerful a combine could be. New Holland's engineers had spent years developing a completely different approach: two longitudinal rotors set at an axial angle inside a cage that threshed and separated grain through centrifugal force as the crop spiraled through the machine. No straw walkers, no conventional threshing cylinder, a completely new concept. The TR70 was powered by a 145 horsepower Ford engine, with an optional 166 horsepower Caterpillar V8 for those who wanted more muscle. Its grain tank held 158 bushels. By 2025 standards, those numbers are modest. The modern New Holland CR10 that descends from it packs 635 horsepower and a grain tank that is 153 bushels larger than the TR70 in standard configuration. But in 1975, the TR70 was a revelation. It demonstrated that rotary threshing was not just a theoretical concept. It worked in real fields, in real conditions, with real crops. The background story of the TR70 is equally fascinating. IH engineers had been testing both single-rotor and twin-rotor designs in the late 90s. When IH chose to pursue a single-rotor design, one engineer who had worked on the twin-rotor project left for New Holland and became the lead engineer on the TR70 project. IH sued New Holland over this. The case was settled out of court, and the settlement required New Holland to delay the TR70's introduction, but not stop it. By 1975, the machine was ready, and it permanently altered the direction of combine design worldwide. New Holland has since produced over 70,000 TR and CR twin-rotor combines globally. Every one of them is a descendant of the TR70 that appeared at trade shows in 1975 with that defiant slogan on its side. Number 2. International Harvester Axial Flow 1460. If New Holland fired the opening shot in the rotary revolution with the TR70 in 1975, International Harvester answered with an absolute cannon 1 year later. The IH Axial Flow 1460, introduced in 1976, was the culmination of years of secret development that had begun with a prototype designated CX-18A tested in Aberdeen, South Dakota in July 1970. The Axial Flow used a single longitudinal rotor, a different approach from New Holland's twin-rotor design, and the results were spectacular. The 1460 used a 125 kilowatt engine and weighed approximately 9 tons. Its rotor diameter was 610 millimeters. The machine was in production from 1977 through 1985, and during that time it became one of the most celebrated combines in American agricultural history. The competitive impact of the 1460 on the entire industry cannot be overstated. When the IH Axial Flow Combine arrived in showrooms, it prompted John Deere to immediately task one of their top engineers, Dr. Glenn L, manager of Advanced Harvesting Systems, to develop a competitive rotary product. According to Dr. L in a recorded interview in 2014, John Deere's team purchased one of the first IH 1460 combines sold, reportedly trading a brand new Deere combine, plus a substantial cash payment to a Minnesota farmer for his new machine, took it to their experimental farm, disassembled it completely, and used it as the physical foundation for prototyping their own rotary design. Cale estimated that John Deere invested $120 million developing their competitive response. Think about what that means. A rival company bought your machine, bolted their own parts onto your rotor, and spent $120 million studying and improving upon your design. That is not imitation, that is the highest possible tribute one competitor can pay to another. The IH 1460 was so good it forced the most powerful equipment company in the world to scramble. And when IH collapsed financially in the 1980s and was absorbed into what became Case IH, the axial flow technology lived on. It is still the foundation of Case IH combines being manufactured today. Number 1. John Deere 6600. At number 1, we are not choosing the most technologically advanced combine on this list. We are not choosing the one that changed the most engineering principles or won the most patents. We are choosing the one that did everything right at the exact right moment. The machine that became the gold standard of conventional combine harvesting for an entire generation of American farmers. Ladies and gentlemen, the John Deere 6600, introduced in 1969, The 6600 represented the pinnacle of what John Deere had learned from more than 2 decades of producing the Model 55 and its successors. Where the 55 had been innovative but slightly raw, the 6600 was refined, powerful, and deeply reliable. It used a 6-cylinder engine producing around 112 horsepower. It had a large capacity grain tank. Its straw walkers were among the best designed in the industry, and crucially, it could be operated by a single farmer, which by 1969 was no longer a luxury. It was a necessity, as American farms were growing and labor was becoming harder to find. The 6600 was also the machine against which all competition was measured. When IH developed their axial flow, Dr. Glenn Kahl explicitly referenced the 6600 and the 7700 as the profit benchmarks that any new machine had to meet or exceed. He stated that the 8800, a later and larger Deere model, was delivering profit margins around 30 to 32%, far above the standard 15% target. That is the commercial legacy of the 6600 era, machines so profitable for John Deere that the bar they set was nearly impossible for competitors to clear. In farming communities across the American Midwest, the 6600 is still spoken of with genuine emotion. It was the machine that handled your father's wheat harvest the year you were born. It was the combine that was running at 2 a.m. under a full moon because the crop was ready and it never missed a beat. It was the machine that got repaired with baling wire and determination in the middle of a field and still made it back to the bin before dark. That is what separates a legendary piece of equipment from a merely successful one. Specs fade, patents expire, but a machine that becomes part of a family's story, that gets painted and restored and driven in parade after parade by grandsons and granddaughters who never even got to meet the grandfather who bought it. That machine has transcended its own engineering. If you've got a vintage combine sitting in a barn, or if there's one from your family's history that we didn't mention today, drop it in the comments. This community knows more about these machines than any single video ever could, and every story is worth telling. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want more deep dives into farming history, vintage equipment, and the machines that built modern agriculture. We'll see you in the next one.